Ned Fowler. Welcome to the Pirate.
Oh, hi. Good to see you, John.
Good to see you. So we usually start these things out with what are your qualifications?
I'm a commercial pilot, single engine land, single engine sea, multi-engine land, and have an IFR rating too.
Nice. And tailwheel, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, tailwheel endorsement too, and high performance endorsement. Yeah.
So you got the pilot package.
Yeah, I guess. You can call it.
Everything that you might use in Alaska.
Yeah, I can fly them, I guess.
Sweet. So you work at Lake Clark, and you actually live out in Port Alsworth, where Lake Clark is based.
Yep.
How did you start working for Lake Clark?
I started with Lake Clark. It's my family's business, so I grew up out in Port Alsworth, learning to fly from my grandpa, my dad, my uncle, kind of growing up a little bit. And then, I thought I want to be a pilot, so stayed around after graduating high school. There was a flight school there and a 172 to rent. My dad's old Stinson, so I did all my real flight lessons in the Skyhawk, and then my dad would teach me how to fly, kind of real flying almost in the Stinson. So kind of did that after high school. Got my private about a year after graduating high school, and then took me a year and a half to get my instrument after that, because that's a hard one.
Yep.
And then 6 months after that, got my commercial. So about 2.5 years, I got all through my commercial, living out in Port Alsworth. There was an instructor there, and I'd come into Anchorage or up in the valley to do my check rides and stuff like that. Or for instrument, I did a lot of my training in Anchorage with an instructor.
I was just going to say, it's pretty difficult to practice instrument.
Yeah, it's just too far. I'd come to town for a couple days, and they'd let me even work at the Anchorage office a little bit.
Nice.
I was working ground crew in the winter as a ramper, so I could do that in Port Alsworth. I'd either come to town and just kind of fly with the instructor, or maybe stay a week and hang out, help around the office in town a little bit, and then also doing lessons.
Sweet. Let me check something super quick here. I apologize for this.
Yeah. Make sure it's going.
So how old were you when you got your commercial?
I don't know. I was 21.
Yeah. And then did you start flying 91?
No. So I built a lot of time getting all my stuff too. The whole time I was also kind of flying constantly back and forth to Anchorage to do some training or help people move a little bit, go pick up some groceries for me. I'm like, sweet, I'll come in and get some stuff for you. Just building time, whatever. So I came back and forth. So I built a lot of time. So I got my commercial. I was pretty close to my 500 hours. So I just built a little bit more time. And then I got to go right into training with Lake Clark Air in the 207. Late that fall, I did my check ride and stuff, but paperwork didn't come in until early in 2021. So I was almost 22, I think, when I got my first commercial flights.
Really?
Yeah, and then that next summer, I also got to work at we have a Lake Clark Air. There's the Farm Lodge in Port Alsworth, Lake Clark Resort. So I was able, just living in Port Alsworth, be able to fly for both at the same time. So awesome. That next summer, I got to fly floats too.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I was flying the 206 and 180 that first summer. Actually, at that time, the float plane was still on the 135 too. So I guess I was flying 135 for a year or two. It wasn't very much. We were mostly doing stuff for our lodge there. So just flight sing tours, bear stuff like that. But at that time, we still did a few 135 flights, moving revenue stuff like that.
Right. Dude, that's wild, the diversity of aircraft on that used to be on the ticket, and now it's still one of the highest diversity 135 tickets in America.
Yeah.
Even after we took off.
Well, yeah, because all we did was take off two types of planes. We still kept the Bush aircraft are still on the 135. We have a Stinson 108 and Stinson 10A. I've flown 10A some, so
yeah.
And then all the other types of aircraft. So taking the float planes off probably helped a little bit, but proportionally, it's not really that much.
Yeah.
So
we still have we still have several different single engine land. including tailwheel, complex, high performance. We've got what, like 3 or 4 different single engine land, and then
Four different types, I think.
4 different types right now.
Yeah.
And then we have Navajos, and then 99s, 100s, 200s, and a 300 that's waiting to come on the ticket.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is still like,
yeah, a lot of different types of aircraft. So yeah, so you get to fly a lot of different things and see a lot of different things and kind of experience different things with different aircraft you're flying too, which is really fun.
So what all do you fly now?
So now I'm mostly for Lake Clark Air flying the Beech 99s, the airliners. I still am qualified in all the other planes. I'm not qualified in the 200, so I can fly. I'm qualified in the 100, the Navajo still, Bonanza 207. Not the 108. I still qualified in the 10A, the Stetson 10A, and then for the Lodge I fly the 206 and the 180 still. They haven't let me in the Beaver very much yet, but I hope so soon.
Oh yeah, what a bird, dude.
Yeah.
She's sitting out there looking pretty now.
Yeah.
So, how long? 22 you started, and you got your 99 check ride this time last year, right?
I'm trying to think. So I think I started, it would have been the spring of 21. I started with Lake Clark, like flying commercially for Lake Clark Air. And so I was in the singles for quite a while, building time. I didn't have my multi-engine rating yet.
Gotcha.
So I'd give my multi, what was that? That was in 2023. I did that in the springtime with Blue River Aviation.
Who'd you do that with?
Manuela.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
She was fantastic.
Yeah.
She sent me like a packet at a time.
Packet to study and just got you lined out really well.
Yeah.
And just was like consistent. Yeah. You know, just like she was fun to work with, but also had the right amount of like structure to keep you going and getting ready for stuff.
That's
like a good mixture. You need an instructor.
And she seemed to really enjoy, and because she's flying 121 and was still doing it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, I got mine in.
It might have been. She might have been
23.
I did mine in April.
I did mine. We probably did ours within a couple of months of each other.
Yeah,
honestly,
probably.
But yeah, she was great to work with. I need to have her on the podcast.
Yeah. She was fun. I went with one of the other Lake Clark Air pilots at the time, Ryan Wilkin, who's based out in Port Alsworth. So we did it. It was kind of nice to have a buddy there with you. So we kind of he actually had a whole like Microsoft simulator. We took up to our rental place there. So at night we could practice a little bit in the little thing, and that was like kind of felt dumb, but it also helped a lot. Just like the muscle memory and all that sort of things.
That's the thing. I think so. I have a pretty nice simulator, and it does not help for airmanship. I tried that when I was in private, and I tried to learn to land with it, and I screwed myself on that. Yeah. But for procedures, so IFR, multi-engine, and differences training or learning a new airplane, it's great for that. Yeah. Because if all you're worried about is which buttons to press and which levers to pull, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we had that, and that helped a lot. But also, I think we kind of both went into it. Like, we've been flying commercial for a couple of years. I'm like, oh, this will be kind of like easy. We had both done our float ratings fairly recent. I mean, I did mine years before, but he had done it and was like, oh, yeah, it should be pretty easy to do this. But then get there, like, oh my cow, this there's a lot to learn. So when we were like, kind of like, really like, man, at first we were like, we're just going to hang out. We'll go do our lessons and be able to just, go out and eat nice food in Palmer for the week. But then we were every evening just spending the rest of the time just studying, really learning it really well. And I'm glad I did that, and it went well. So I did that, and then after that, I did that in April. So I think in early June, I'd had a Navajo check ride. So I did a lot of training in the Navajo for Lake Clark Air. They got me really dialed in the Navajo.
Nice.
So I did my check ride, and then kind of that whole summer, I didn't fly the Navajo very much. I was flying floats all summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was like, that's what I wanted to do. It's like I wanted to still doing the fun stuff. So then that next fall is when I really started getting like in the Navajo a lot, and that was kind of a rough transition, like because it went from like flying in beautiful weather, then fall time it's like hard IFR, a lot of icing, a lot of snow. So just was a really big learning curve, but I learned a lot.
Yeah.
That winter, about the whole IFR, like just flying IFR even, because I don't do my IFR rating and then forgot it all. So it's kind of relearning a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
So I did that, and that was awesome. And then last spring in May, and did a lot of training in 99 in May, and then in June, it might have been May, I think it was in June, did my 99 check ride.
Nice.
And it's kind of the same thing, not as much. I went and flew floats all summer, and I did this last summer. I was doing like 2 days a week, moving Lake Park Air with moving our lodge clients in that Bristol Bay region. So I was still staying a lot more current, flying the twins and IFR, just like being more proficient and learning a bit, which is a nice transition in the winter, not to just go from flying VFR singles to flying IFR twins.
Oh, yeah.
But I always take time off in the fall time to be assistant hunting guide. So that also takes a lot of time out of my life too, and like transitioning from that summer to winters, because I usually about September 5th I leave, then I'm back either like October 1st or October 21st, depending on how the seasons go. So that's a big transition from the nice summer weather to the really hard winterish weather. So that's always kind of fun.
Yeah, and the winter flying it's a whole different animal. It's like you've got like, one of the things I was facing just today was in the summer, you can get icing. You'll get icing at like 8,000, 10,000 feet, something like that. And you can just descend. Yeah. And it's fine. But then today I was flying along and I was at 6,000. Yeah. And, I listened to I was getting a little bit of ice and I listened to the METAR. And I realized that I wasn't going to be able to melt it off. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I need to sort this out. Yeah. And so it's like, it's a whole different animal, and the systems are just a lot more powerful and bigger. Yeah. They cover the whole peninsula. Yeah. Yeah. It's entertaining to kind of go like, or it's funny because you'll go through weather for all day and it's terrible. You either fight two different systems. You'll fight a system that's in Cook Inlet. Yeah. Across the range, it'll be nice around like in the Lake Iliamna country, and then by the time you get down to Chignix, it's a totally another weather system. So it's just kind of like, it's a lot of work, but it's kind of fun once you start getting like I've had a couple years now of kind of learning a little bit, so you kind of understand some of the weather patterns and what things to kind of expect when the weather's a certain way. But I mean, it's always changing, but there's certain things you can kind of understand on weather down in the peninsula. But. And like how to get out of a sticky situation, like if the wind's blowing across the peninsula, you can get on the windward side and have pretty smooth air. Yeah. But it's pretty low vis. Yeah. And then you get on the leeward side and it's turbulent. It's super turbulent, but it's clear. Yeah. And it's like, because that's moving over the top of you then. And it's like kind of you hope you can plan your route to that too. Because like some days, like the Bering side, you're not making it anywhere on the Bering side. It's just, it's terrible. Yeah. Pacific side is beautiful. Just go down there and get that done for the day. It's really rough, but it's, safe and get our clients there. And then other days, it's usually not super rough on the Pacific Bering side if it's really windy, but it's just super low on the Pacific side, and you just can't get into places. So you just kind of work those weather systems back and forth and try and play the odds and kind of learn how weather sits in those certain areas with certain wind directions and stuff like that. And the reason it's not super rough on the Bering side is because the airports, there's more land in the mountains. Yeah. They'll be like 10 miles away. Yeah. Or like Pilot Point is probably 30 or 40. Yeah. So it's like you're not just getting the rollers right as they come off like you are on the Pacific side. Yeah. On the Pacific side, all the airports are, they're in the mountain, on the mountain. It's all, it's kind of nice in Alaska in one way, in that none of our airports are really high altitude, but all
all our airports, or a lot of our airports, are in the mountains.
Yeah.
Which is just wild, and it's right from sea level. They go up. I mean, on the peninsula, not too tall a mountain, maybe 4,000, 5,000, except for the certain few volcanoes down there that you have to kind of dodge. But it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, it you definitely have like a mental picture that you need to be working on and updating throughout your day as you get more information.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not, I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast before, it's not just your typical FAA weather products that you're using to get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
You're using all sorts of stuff, from runway reports to the windy pictures, which look really nice and give you a lot of information very quickly, to the weather cameras.
Yeah.
You're building a mental image of what's happening and what could happen depending on where the weather systems are and how they're moving.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it is those two separate lows that are moving in different ways.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous all the time.
So, flying floats out of Port Alsworth, what's that like?
It's really fun. What we're doing with our clients there, so I work for a Lake Clark resort. It's associated with Lake Clark Air. It's my uncle's lodge there. So what we're doing mostly now is moving like national park tourists. So in Port Alsworth, we're surrounded by Lake Clark National Park, and then 100 miles to the south, or 50 miles to the south, is Katmai National Park and Preserve. So we're doing trips, kind of catering to both those things with our float planes, and we use the two Lake Clark Air bush planes a lot too, and have another bush plane we use for the lodge. So we're kind of catering to those kind of national park tours. So we have like a flight seeing day in Lake Clark National Park, a flight see day in Katmai National Park, bear viewing in both national parks, sport fishing in either park, and do other like adventure trips, so like rafting and things like that. So we fly for all those things. Go see Dick Brennicke's cabin right north of Port Alsworth there, One Man's Wilderness. So that's, he was a guy, he moved up. He was a retired Navy person. He lived in Kodiak and had a buddy who had a cabin up somewhere called Twin Lakes. So his buddy took him up there in the mid 60s, and Dick fell in love with the place. Spike took him up there to go hunting up in, I think it was like 65 or something. And I think after that, at some point, Dick he was like working on heavy machinery a lot, and he had an incident where he went like temporarily blind or something, and had a big like kind of life-changing, like, I told my last night to be like working, I want it to be of beautiful places. I had this idea to go build a cabin in the woods with hand tools. He's like, man, I was like, Twin Lakes would be perfect. So he went up there with Spike, and he was going up there a lot with Spike then after that, and kind of scouted the whole lake and found a good cabin site. So up the year before, cut all his logs, laid him out, like got him all to his cabin site, and then let him sit for a year. And then I think it was in 68, he cut the log in 67. In 68, he went out to build the cabin. He actually went out so early, so Babe Alsworth flew him out there in early June, and the upper lake, so his cabin on the upper lake, so Twin Lakes, there's an upper lake and a lower lake, and they're both about, I think there's 8 mile long lakes or something like that, kind of oriented there in the Alaska range. And so the upper lake was still frozen, the lower lake was clear of ice. So Babe landed on the lower lake, and Dick hiked all his gear up from there up to the cabin because he wanted to get an early start
at the upper lake.
Yeah, it was like a 4 mile hike to get up there
with all of his gear.
Yeah, but he like saved some weight. He cut all the handles off his tools. He took the tool heads up there. He put his own tool heads there. So he went up there and built he started building this cabin. So and he was unique too. His brother gave him film equipment over the years. So there's a lot of this stuff is like on foot. There's a lot of footage about this. And so he became like semi-famous pretty recently after that, because a friend of his, Sam Keith, wrote a book about him, One Man's Wilderness. We're going to put him on the map. Yeah. And then after that, there's a PBS special that happens a lot. So there's a lot of interest in Lake Clark National Park to go see Dick Brennicke's cabin. So I think it's 40 miles north of Port Alsworth there, so we do a lot of day trips up to there, and hikers and stuff in that area too that kind of want to explore that beautiful country there. So it's just spectacular. 2 glacial lakes right there, surrounded with beautiful country. Lots of sheep in the mountains, black bears, grizzly bears, everything there.
Dude, that's awesome. What a story. Like, to be so inspired. And I've recently become or come to appreciate the fact that like working with my hands on certain projects is just more rewarding. Like the product may not be as good, and it's definitely not as cheap as I could get it off Amazon.
Yeah.
But it's like I made my daughter a lunch bag.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of weeks because I had to think through it all.
Yeah.
I like was kind of making it up as I went, but it's like, I can get one on Amazon for $6.99 or whatever. But it's like, that's cool. Like, to have something that has a story that you built with your hands.
And experiencing with your daughter too. She's helping you, like, just having that lifetime of experience is way more valuable, or it's worth a lot. It's priceless.
And to like take that out, I mean, that's just like a tiny little project, and for a whole cabin where you're like in the wilderness off of road access, and you're cutting logs, and you're seasoning them, and then you're taking your tools up and then rebuilding your tools because the handles were too heavy to carry. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty cool guy. And then it's interesting too because he never really built anything after his cabin.
Really?
It's beautiful craftsmanship. The next year he built himself like a traditional, like, ever see those like caches behind, like a tall cache so bears can get in it and the squirrels and rodents.
Oh yeah.
So he built a cache behind his cabin and a woodshed, and that's the only buildings he built. Then he was up there for 30 seasons. I think out of that, 17 full winter seasons. So he traveled back and forth. He had family in Iowa. And then Babe flew him first up there. We did a lot of the flying. And then Glenn Sr. flew him a lot. And then in the last years, he was up there. My uncle Glenn Jr. flew him a lot. I mean, everyone was flying for Lake Clark Gare there. One of the people. And he'd come down to Port Alsworth, and he was heavy machinery guys would help run the grader some. They always said stories and help build the chicken coop at the lodge there. So he was part of the community, part of that lake country community. And then he was actually kind of instrumental in advocating for Lake Clark National Park getting that big. He had all his film and video there, so the park could look at that, and he had a great with a great reason that we should promote to have the park extended along the original boundaries to include the Twin Lakes region, the Turquoise region too. Oh, wow. So, yeah, interesting guy for sure.
That's pretty wild. Can we go back to the fact that there's a chicken coop in Port Alsworth? Yeah. Where do the chickens go in the winter?
Oh, they just stay in the coop.
Wait, what's the logistics here? So they're in the coop. You're like heating them.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then you like throw food in there and get eggs out.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was viable.
Chickens can grow pretty much anything.
That's
pretty fine.
All right. Well, Aubrey, there's hope for you yet. My wife is in our live studio audience today with her dreams of sourdough and chickens and cows. So you've been flying the float planes out to places like Dick Bernicke's cabin and to the national parks, the two separate ones right there.
Yeah.
And you kind of balance both the float plane flying and the VFR tourism and the 135 side.
Yeah.
So what's you touched a little bit on integrating those more, but what's that like, getting such a diverse experience of flying? Like most people plug into flying and they get the one experience. And so what's that like going back and forth?
I don't know. They're both very different, even though you're flying in, generally the same region. Like with the twin IFR planes, we're flying a lot farther distances. But, when the float plane is flying over some of the communities we service with the 135. And I don't know. I like the float plane flying just because it seems like a more wilderness-minded experience almost. Yeah. We're going bear viewing, we're going fly fishing, or maybe go a little hike, or just seeing, the whole point was just to go see beautiful things. While the 135 is a lot more goal oriented. People are traveling, they need to get home, they have a project they need to work on, it's school kids need to go on their school trip. So it's just a lot different kind of, the goal is so much different in types of flying. But like kind of, I don't know, like the difference is, just kind of have good flows of what you're doing with each plane, and just land with the wheels down.
So how do you stay on top of multiple airframes? Because it's not simple.
No. I don't know. Just knowing the systems well, and just trying to be very present in what you're flying, and recognize what systems you have to use and what you do have. It is handy with Lake Clark Air, like all our IFR aircraft are equipped with the same radios and stuff like that. So it's not, that part of the system isn't different from plane to plane. You're using the same system for each plane, which is very handy. But just staying very mindful of what you're trying to do with each mission, and be very present in each landing. You know what I mean? Like the 99, we're going to some not short, but shorter strips for that big of an aircraft. Just being present, keeping your numbers right, coming in on the right numbers, using the correct procedure to land, just doing it the same every time is important. And then with the float planes, we don't go into very short places just because we're moving tourists. There's no pressure to go anywhere. Kind of short. There's a few places we go where we shuttle, and best piece of advice I ever got about shuttling with any plane is, if you think you need to shuttle, you shuttle. Like there's not, if you have any doubts, just do it. You're gonna cost what? An extra 10 gallons of gas? Who cares compared to wrecking an airplane? And once you learn, then you can know, I could have added an extra 100 pounds to that last load and been totally safe. But if you don't know, you got to start from somewhere.
So you work from the safe side out. And you're like, okay, I did have extra water. I did have extra runway.
Yes.
So one thing, have you ever read the book Thinking Fast and Slow?
No.
It's about how our minds operate, and our minds are pretty lazy. It's an enormous consumer of calories. It's a huge effort to think, and so our minds will try very quickly, as soon as we learn something, to just offload it into direct action without thinking about it too much. A habit. You drive home the same way every day. You get home and you're like, I don't remember any of the drive.
Yes.
I don't know if you experienced this in Port Alsworth.
No, I walk normal.
Okay. You live halfway down the runway. Slightly different. But like if you drive the same route every day, you lock the door the same, like you drive the same vehicle, then you're like, wait, did I lock the door? I don't like remember any stoplights I hit, or any, like it all just blends together. And so one thing that I realized, going from flying the same airframe every day to flying, like sometimes I'll fly 3 different airframes in a day. I'll go from I'll do 99 Navajo, Bonanza, all in the same day. And you can't offload thinking in the same way as if you were flying the same airframe constantly. You have to, like you were saying, be present all the time, and you have to really think through, okay, this is a single engine, so I should not be over blue water. I need to plan my routing accordingly.
Unless you have floats, you can be over the water. No, and I mean, it's very handy to use like the checklists that are provided in all the aircraft to kind of keep things straight. But also, I mean, there's only so much that you have to know the system still with the checklist. You got to know, where is the whatever switch? I mean, where's the starter on this plane? They're different every plane for some reason. So I mean, just like or anything, like where is the landing gear switch? Oh, how does this one operate? Like with the Navajo, you throw it up, it's going to cycle all the way up, and then it's going to return to the down position. While the 99, it stays up. So just simple things like that, they have to kind of be mindful of, because it's only going to say like, make sure you bring the gear up. But if you're flying the Navajo a lot, and then you're like, the gear didn't return, the handle didn't return to 99. What's happening? Yeah. And it's like, oh wait, I'm not in a Navajo where the gear handle returns. So it's like things like that you have to kind of be mindful of. All the different systems, they're all similar, but they operate differently, have different tolerances, different speeds. So you have to be very mindful of those sort of things.
Yeah, the speeds especially, because most of those speeds you have to just memorize. It's just rote memorization. And Lake Clark has done actually a fair amount toward creating just universal standards across their fleet.
Yes.
Which is really nice. But it's still, it's a lot of different numbers.
Yes.
And like you go from the Navajo to the Bonanza, and the Bonanza you can throw the gear down
really fast.
Super fast.
And the flaps are really slow. Exactly. Navajo's opposite. It's almost the same exact opposite speeds.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
So it's very unique when you think about that.
Yeah.
But it's just got to be present in each airplane you're flying and kind of recognize what you're trying to do with that one mission and kind of fly it well. And then if you're not flying a plane very often, like regularly, you're not going to be really very be able to fly it to its full potential to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like if you're flying a Navajo a lot and you trip at a Bonanza, you probably should fly it for 5 hours and do a couple lands before you try to go into Chinook Lagoon. Like things like that. Just like things like that, or like, flying the float plane all summer, okay, but it's getting towards August where you're going to start going to Crossland Lake, which is one of the shorter lakes we operate out of. It's not very short, but we got to shuttle out of there often, so got to kind of getting up to it, kind of be ready. We're going to be not landing short, but your takeoffs are going to use a lot of the runway, a lot of the water there, and going to shuttle there. So start being mindful for a couple days before that of, okay, I'm going to take first load out of there, just take one person. Just feel how it goes. It's, you know what I mean? It's going to be calm today. Those sort of things you got to think about too. But if you switch from the 206 to the 180, you also got to be like, I haven't done the 180 very much this year. I better be a little bit more mindful. It's similar to the 206, but definitely takes off shorter, but also just feels different on the water. So
yeah. So just kind of easing yourself back into retransitioning into each aircraft when you're unfamiliar. Yeah. That really is key. I remember there was earlier this spring, I hadn't been in a Navajo for probably 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden I'm going from all Beechcraft products, which they all fly really similar. And back to the Navajo, and I'm like, okay, I need to paint by numbers. I need like checklists, everything, and like line by line, and like make sure check as I go, because like the flows are different and how it feels and how it flies and the numbers. So growing up and flying out of Port Alsworth with some of the legends of flying in Alaska, what was that like?
Normal. It's just, there's a lot of people flying out of Port Alsworth, and it's normal, and they can teach you a lot. That's kind of a great, awesome experience. Remember my first kind of real flight lesson with my dad. I think I was 13. I remember that. I don't think it went very well, but I remember it. I remember it pretty vividly, flying in the 10A. I think it was a rainy day, but just like that sort of thing. I remember one lesson with my grandpa when I think it was like 15. That one didn't go well either, but I learned a lot of yelling. And do that. And I was like, what? I haven't done this before, but it was, it's just kind of that. You learn a lot, and then it's especially helpful, like for once you're getting past your initial flight training and learning specific different things, like getting this airport, you come from this side, it's going to be windy. With this wind speed, you're going to have this sort of thing.
Yeah, you're going to have like some rollers.
Yes, or like learning a lot about floats, like with waves and stuff. Like, like it's kind of a funny thing to say, but like when there's big rollers and wind, you taxi out until it's almost too big of waves, because if you're going to land into the lee side, so the waves are small, coming offshore when there's big waves. So you're it's like, it's hard to figure out at first, like, how far do I taxi back? When you land, you only need you don't need very much water at all.
No.
But taking off, you need a lot of water. So it's like, it's hard to judge how much you need. And it's like, you just keep learning about how big a wave, like what size of wave, you get tips from everyone else around teaching you. And I've been around some really great pilots who have learned that all before me, and I'm trying to learn from their mistakes.
That's one of the huge benefits of the hangar talk, and one of the reasons that I started the podcast was because an unfortunate side effect of working for Lake Clark is that it's an unscheduled operator, so that means you don't get hangar talk usually. If you see another pilot, it's usually in the morning, and everybody's usually trying to get everything going and get everything loaded, and I've got 40 different things to do, and I'm trying not to forget these 3 that I don't have written down, and I need to do right now. And so there's no time where there's no pressure. And there's a lot to learn from other pilots, even pilots who have much less time. They may have a different perspective or have learned in a slightly different way, and they can contribute. And it may not be something you use all the time, but maybe it's a tool in your bag.
Or they've had an experience recently that you haven't had yet.
Exactly.
And might as well learn from that experience yourself.
What have been some of the more memorable flights that you had out of flying for Lake Clark?
I don't know. Flying the Lower Peninsula in the 99 is pretty awesome. Not a lot this winter. So, going between Sandpoint and Falls Pass and King Cove, it's beautiful country, very rough. It's difficult to operate on, but super cool. You're out over lots of water, lots of wind, mountains, bumps, just everything. So it's cool to get down there. I haven't been down there a lot because just how Lake Clark is. Until you're in the Twin Turbines, you're not down there. So it's kind of different meeting, new clients we've had for years at Lake Clark, but I haven't met because I've been flying them. So it's kind of interesting to learn to meet them and make new relationships that way. Just trying to think. I don't know. Going to Chigniks for years has always been that's a cool place to operate in, but it's difficult. It's the Alaska Peninsula, big mountains, water, weather, wind, just all that thrown into one. And there is a way through Black Lake. There's kind of a lower pass, so you can get in there when there's 1,500-foot ceilings and stuff like that. You can find the Chigniks then, but it's rough. It's difficult. I've been experiencing when it's blowing southeast there, it's hard to get in there. It's going to be nice at the first one of the villages there, but get progressively worse the farther along you get going into those villages.
And especially if you've got the southeast wind going into Bay, then if you're taking off in the Navajo out of Bay and you have to take off into it, and then that wind is widening your turn as you're trying to turn out of that horseshoe canyon, it's that's terrible.
No, it's not very fun at all on those sort of days. On a beautiful day, there's not a place I'd rather fly than down in that.
It's gorgeous. It's the flight from Chignik Bay to Perryville is probably the most beautiful flight.
It's gorgeous, spectacular stuff.
It's crazy.
Just big mountains and just really beautiful. I'm trying to think, one of my first memories, a memorable flight I had in the float plane, it was one time I think it was my first year flying floats, and I went down. We had we go to Brooks Camp a lot, which is from Port Alsworth, about an hour flight in the Cessnas. And I think somehow that day we had a lot of clients, so we like had shuttled people in, like we had taken people down, had a plane come back up and do move some other hikers around with a guide. So I was going back down there in the afternoon to pick up I think 2 clients and one of our guides. And my dad was still down there. All like how we do it, we as a pilot, so we don't have a guide, we kind of tour the clients around wherever we're at. So he was down there with a group of people. So I took off from Port Alsworth. It was pretty low weather, and I found I was able to wander my way down, across Lake Iliamna, around Big Mountain, over Kukakuk Lake, down the American Canyon, the American Creek, then get into Brooks Camp. And it was low, but not terrible. It was some low spots, but I was like, man, okay, well, we can come back this way. Get there, it's raining really hard. My clients come to the beach, and then my dad hops in, and we take off. And going back up the way I just came through, like Lake Colville, American Creek, was bad. So we decided to go west from Brooks Camp, go kind of towards King Salmon, then around those lower hills out there into that flat country, and then kind of head up towards Igiugig Village, and kind of come over Lake Iliamna back up towards Port Alsworth.
You can just kind of hit the
and it's a lot longer flight, but it's a lot less terrain, a lot better weather. And so we wander up that way, and we land, and then we try to get to like Igiugig, right north of Igiugig. There's some big, smaller lakes off the end of Lake Iliamna there, and then there's kind of that southwest corner. And often, weather kind of holds in that southwest corner of Lake Iliamna. So we kind of come up, we can't really get past that southwest corner very well. So we decide, I'm talking to my dad on the radio, so we go land in one of those lakes, a mile, right in that region between the Igiugig and that southwest corner. So we land and we just wait there for an hour, and then weather improved, so then we took off and were able to kind of make our way kind of more directly over the middle of Lake Iliamna up that way. And then once we got within about 15 miles of Iliamna Airport there, the weather actually broke like wide open. It was kind of nice weather then, but it was one of my memorable flights flying in kind of bad weather, worsening weather. And it was fun being with my dad, being in another plane, right? Kind of coached me through what to do.
That's awesome.
Great experience.
To have that, like, okay, well, this is happening, so we should do this. Oh, okay, so it looks like it's closing. We should land here. That's really cool to have that somebody kind of like holding your hand through those first experiences. It's really awesome and valuable.
So, that was a good one.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And so you transitioned. You said you had they spent a good bit of time making sure that you were ready for the Navajo. Did they do something similar with the 99?
Yes.
How did that go?
Yes. I think with the Navajo it was more because, I was totally kind of out of the IFR world. So kind of learning that whole world of filing and approaches and altitudes, like, there's a lot of that. Just flying helps, but like a lot of that was needed. In the 99, I did fly the plane a lot, but it needed a lot less time because I was already competent in the IFR world. So the Navajo was a lot more kind of getting.
Oh, I can't believe this is me. It's my trash alarm.
Oh,
trash night.
Ooh.
So you were already up to speed in the IFR world, so that helped.
Yes, helped a lot. And then the 99 is just, it's transition from piston to turbine is so much different. The piston is, the turbines are, are way more forgiving, but you have to learn how to fly them because they fly totally different.
They do.
You have reverse, you have, how the whole systems work is totally different. You know how these magic things turn. But you learn that and you figure it out. So a lot of just kind of book study too. Do that. So. Yeah,
and you can't just like, in the pistons, you're used to just firewalling everything.
You got to set power.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of.
But other than that, like, I think the Navajo is about as complicated as you can get for a single pilot.
Oh, yeah.
Like that airplane, when I'm instructing it, I'm like, dude, if you're not doing something in the Navajo, you should be doing something in the Navajo.
Yeah.
Like it should make you nervous that you haven't done something in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the Navajo it's hard to fly.
It is.
It's great because it teaches you how to fly something really good. You're always just something's going wrong. You should be fixing something, but they're capable aircraft.
Right. And they're fairly efficient compared to they can move 2,000 pounds at 40 gallons an hour.
Yeah, you can move. I think you can have to 9 passengers. We, like our air, have at most 8 passengers now. Yeah. But you can move 8 people with them. That's a lot of people to move. Yeah. To be able to move that with that, and so they do, for what they can do, they do a great job. Yeah. And I think there's a great track record with them. I think now a lot of it, they're just an older airframe. Yeah. And just it's just harder to source parts. And now it's like weirder things are breaking on them. It's not like a simple fix. It's like some a wiring failure happens, and then it's like they have to track that down. It's like something that's not like as normal or easy to fix. Yeah. A lot of the things now with the Navajos, but it's there. I mean, they're from the mid 70s to late. There were some in the 80s, right? Maybe. Yeah. But there's really no replacement, honestly. No. There's no twin engine that's burning similar fuel, that's going similar speeds, that has similar cargo capability. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like there's the new engines, the new airframes out there. There's like the most comparable would be the DA-62, which burns 7 gallons an hour of jet fuel. It's fantastic. Yeah. But doesn't have the same like cargo capabilities. Yeah. It's got 6 seats that are fixed. Yeah. It's like you're not gonna it's pull them out and throw groceries in there. No lumber. Yeah. Yeah, and you probably don't want to take that to like short strips and probably not. Especially with those carbon fiber blades. Oh yeah, that's not very good for those sort of things. Yeah. Yeah, I mean now probably if you look for a comparable Halo, you're looking at a single engine aircraft, which they're turbine, like a Caravan or a Kodiak or something like that. But they're 2-3 times as much. Yeah. Yeah. Navajos are very affordable. So but they're good airframe. I've enjoyed flying them. It was a lot of work and got to figure stuff out, and they like to be light. They don't want to be very heavy. Dude, they perform very well. Yeah, even today, I was below the BLR. So there's a boundary layer research allows you 368 pounds. The STC allows you 368 pounds max gross takeoff weight increase on the Navajo. And the Navajo doesn't love it. No. It's like the originally certificated max gross takeoff weight is 7,000 pounds and the BLR is 7,368. And I was in between those today and it did not want to fly. I was like, come on, let's get off the ground here. Yeah. Yeah. I think that BLR gross weight is mostly it's just the VG. I think it's like 100 and some VGs, and I think it does 88. It greatly improved the performance of it, but when it's at Navajo at gross, it doesn't want any more weight for sure. Yeah, it's just it reduces its stall speed, but it doesn't do anything for the power. Yeah, and it's like that's a heavy bird that's being driven by some old engines. Yeah, yeah. So you're flying the 99 now, and we were talking recently on the podcast about there's so much of safety seminars and safety paraphernalia in the aviation world and the GA world is focused on the go, no-go decision, but that's not really what it's like when you fly
a capable bird like the 99 or even the Navajo. It's not am I going to take off or not? It's continue or modify most of the time. So it's like I've got these 7 stops that I have to make. 3 of them look pretty bad.
Yeah.
We'll kind of get out there and see what's going on.
Yeah.
How do you quantify continuing on to a destination versus changing your plans? What does that process look like for you?
I don't know. There's just kind of like a few different things and kind of have to all line up together. I mean, you have like wind, and wind direction's a big one. Visibility, of course, and ceiling. So you have and weather, and then like how many passengers actually have for those places too can also kind of be somewhat of a factor.
Yeah.
But like when you're looking at weather and wind direction, you look at the forecast. Okay, so it's blowing 35 down there today, and it's supposed to be mostly a crosswind. But by the time I get down there, it's supposed to vector and be, mostly straight down the runway. So and that's a doable stop then. And then you look, okay, so ceiling is supposed to be at 1,000 feet today, which, okay, that's fine. What's our visibility? If our visibility is not very good, that's not going to be a viable option. And so you have to balance all 3 of those things together. And then, like, if it's going to be super rough in a place, and it's like I'm picking up passengers out of there, it's like, and I have passengers on board already, it's kind of like, that's not worth it. I already have 5 passengers on board. Yep. To get one person, all these, they're going to have a terrible ride getting into that location. And then I have to get back out of there through all the bumps. And it's one person, and you can just call an audible and be like, we'll get you tomorrow. Like, it's a bummer. I know you guys wanted to get there, but for everyone else that's already on board, it's not worth, I mean, turbulence isn't very good for the airframe, but just for people, it's not like flying for people. Even if they fly a lot, it's not a comfortable experience a lot of times in Alaska.
Yeah, no.
And it's long days, and it's just got to kind of keep the passenger somewhat in mind on certain things like that. Yeah, if you can avoid those certain things like big bumps, like it's turbulent. Yeah, getting some major turbulence. It's not like. We're not talking about just like little bumps. We're talking about like out of the seat bumps. Like it's so that's kind of has to be a factor too. Or like sometimes, like the other day, I went down to pick up a passenger going to Anchorage from Nelson Lagoon. Went over to Sandpoint to get fuel there. We get fuel there really often, and there's a nice waiting area there. And the lady going to Anchorage, I was like, I have to go to King Cove, False Pass after this, then I'll come back to Sandpoint. And she's like, can I just wait here? And I was like, that's a great idea. It's blowing northwest 30. It's going to be bumpy. Just wait here. She had family in town. It was nice to come visit her for a couple hours. But like, perfect. She was able to like rest kind of comfortably, not be in the plane an extra hour. Also not through the bumps. And then pick up the other passengers. And it was bumpy along the way. And then come back, got more fuel there, and able to bring her to Anchorage. So that's perfect. Like sometimes it's willing to do an extra stop if it all works in your other plan of getting the mission done, but trying to be courteous to our passengers because they have a very long day. Yeah, sometimes with us.
Well, that's kind of the downside of like just the nature of flying to these villages that have 40 residents or 150 residents. Yes. It's like you can't just pick up people from there and go direct Anchorage, and so it is a bus route, and the villagers know that, but anything that you can do to make that experience better, you don't learn that in primary. You don't even learn that in commercial. There's no like, hey, like think about how your passengers are feeling. But if you're in a 99 and you've got a passenger that's 25 feet behind you, they're experiencing the yaw and the bumps way more than you are. Like you're right around the mean chord of the wing. You're like maybe 4 or 5 feet in front of it.
Yeah.
Like everything's rotating around about where you are. So like the people in the back, they're having a rough time if it's not great.
Yeah.
So taking the passengers into account and trying to think like, hey, what's good for everybody on here? That's what sets apart pilots and like true aviators, where it's like that's a professional.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you kind of forget about it, and you're like, oh, that's not, but then it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
You come back like, this is my job. I do this every day. So yeah, of course, my tolerance is a lot less, is a lot more compared to what my package is going to be going to those places. But you just kind of take a step back and think about it, and like, okay, yeah, we should fly this extra 5 miles out around the mountain here. Make sure we stay out of the bumps. Oh, yeah. Coming out of Falls Pass, don't go under the volcano there. It's blowing northwest. It's going to rock you. Turn right.
Yeah.
Get away from that wind coming over the mountain there, and have a smoother ride for people.
Oh yeah.
So it's trial and error, but also try to learn from people's experience and learn where those kind of pockets of turbulence can be on those really rough days.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you had places where you, in the 99, where you thought you were going to be able to get in and you couldn't make it work, or places where you were like, I don't think I can make this work, and then you took some time and you were able to figure it out and get in?
Yeah, I've been able to, you know what I mean? Like, some days there's really low ceilings down there, so you kind of launch like, okay, there's a great approach into Port Haydn or wherever. I'm going to go down there, and we're just going to wait from there. We're closer, so something does lift, we have a chance to get in there.
I did that today.
Yep, so kind of, yeah. But, you know, you're trying to get people moved, so you get down there into that area, then you kind of wait for weather to lift.
Yeah.
That's kind of one thing you can do. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you check the weather and it's good enough to get over there. So you launch, get going over there, and you're like, this is not what they're forecasting, or like how they were forecasting it made it sound better. Like sometimes they report weather and it's like, well, you can see it's blue sky. They're calling it overcast 200, but it's just the one patch of fog over the airport.
Yeah.
And other times they're calling it really good weather, but you can see it's like, it looks terrible there.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat deceiving sometimes with that. So you get going. And so I've had to turn around, several times, not make it into places. And often what I try to do is just wait a bit if I have time on the day. Not too many people waiting. You can kind of wait. Hopefully the weather will change. But sometimes, the weather won't change, or there's no other options for that day to get it done. So you just kind of continue back to base. There's one flight that I did this winter where I had a passenger for Perryville. But I also, what happened? I went through the Chigniks, and I was supposed to go do a run down on the Lower Peninsula. Then the way back north, stop through Perryville north. But I knew weather was going to be bad in Perryville and like getting worse. So I called the office, like, hey, I'm going to go to Perryville right now. Get the passenger. They're a longer day riding, but we'll get them to Anchorage today instead of having to not get it later, because I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to get back in here, because I'm already in the region, know how the weather is, but I don't know if it's going to be good to shoot the approach into Perryville. I'm not going to be able to take that time to shoot into Port Haydn and run around extra 100 miles, so that's not viable. So I'll have to get them out right now.
Yeah, and because that approach only gets you down to, what is it, 800 feet? And
I think it's 1,200.
Yeah,
it's low in Perryville.
And then like a few miles. So like, I mean, you might as well be a VFR underneath.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Unless you came all the way from Anchorage or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can come from like Sandpoint's 60 miles, but kind of the wrong direction, and the weather's supposed to move in from that direction, so that wouldn't really be an option. And then, so it was like, we kind of have to do this now if you want to get out today. And I think since I told him that, he was like okay with it, kind of happy with it. Like, try and like, I guess like, it's not that I don't want to come back through here and save you hours, but that I'm not going to make it back here more than likely today if the weather keeps degrading.
Yeah.
So if you get you now, it's going to be an extra 2.5 hours of being on the plane, but you'll be anxious tonight like you had planned instead of still at home.
That's a great example of thinking outside the box, where you're like, okay, I had this route where I'm going out and dropping off people and then turning around and picking up people, and I'll dodge over to the left side on the way out and haul this guy around. But he's going to make it in. Yeah, like that's a fantastic way to approach these complex situations, where it's like some days you have 13, 14 stops in a 99 or a Navajo. Yeah. And to keep all of your options in play, it's a difficult thing, but if you can do it right, you can make some stuff happen that's pretty effective. And I find that today's an exception because I didn't go to I didn't make it into the Chigs today, but it's really rare. It's really rare that I don't get to tick off all of my stops somehow. Yes. And like I'll shoot into somewhere and then scoot over, like you were saying, or I'll rearrange, but some way I'll get everywhere I'm supposed to go. But the Chigs were being the Chigs today. That's the thing. Like you were talking about taking passengers in and out, dude. If you go missed in the Chigs, you still have to fly in the Chigs for like another 10, 15 minutes. It's not like you're scot-free. Like you're getting pounded. I was shooting into just flying into Lake the other day, and it's like beautiful VFR, but it's like rocking. The wind is just rocking, and I was trying because I've had these passengers on all the way from Anchorage, and it was like my 7th stop, and I felt bad for them. So I was like, I'm gonna give it everything I got, and I got down to like 200 feet. And I was like, this is not safe. Yeah. And I poured the beans to it and went around, and then I'm like climbing for the next 7 minutes in moderate to severe turbulence. And it's like, not only did these people not get to where they were going and had to fly my entire 7-hour day in the airplane, but then they're also getting pounded all the way through the Chigs. Yep. And that's part of it. I mean, just where we operate, the weather's different and unique, and I mean, it's windy. The people who we're taking out there though I've never had a complaint for missing. No. Going into the Chigs or Perryville. Yeah. We get people who are upset about going missed here and there, but people who live in these rougher areas, they understand, and they don't want you to push it because they've seen it too much. No. Like they've seen airplanes balled up on the runway. Yeah. And they don't want to be a part of that. They just as soon come back to Anchorage. They've seen it or experienced it. Yeah, that's fair enough. Communities. yeah, dude. Yeah. They really are. So what's on the horizon for you, Ned? Oh, I don't know. I got this summer lined up. I'm going to be flying floats for the lodge for about 4 days a week, and flying twins for Lake Clark Air 2 days a week is the plan so far. Nice. And then a full fall guiding in September and October. Nice. Do you plan to buy or build your own airplane? So I have a Tri-Pacer. Oh yeah. I built a lot of my time in, nice. When I was getting my commercial and stuff. So I'm actually kind of planning on trying. I haven't flown a couple of years, just kind of get back in annual. There's a couple small things I had to order parts for, so gonna get that in annual, and then probably plan on selling it. Yeah. And my dad has that old Stinson. It was kind of ratty, so we tore it apart. I kind of talked about it, but my dad had an old Stinson 10A that he taught me to fly in a lot. Yeah. And so I flew that on skis, and on wheels and stuff. So it was pretty ratty. I mean, it was
at the time, kind of ratty always. So me and my brother Sam, who's a couple years, he's younger than me by 5 years.
Yeah.
I guess, something like that. So he's getting his pilot's license and stuff. So we're rebuilding that right now. So we have it down to bare steel right now is all it is.
Really?
So we're trying to get ready to sandblast it and then, total rebuild on the old Stinson.
That's awesome.
Great. Real fun. So doing that. Yeah, Dad's helping us because he knows how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we built a lot of planes over the years. But it's kind of the plan for the old Stinson.
How long do you think that'll take?
Oh, a long time because we tore it apart like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's been other stuff happening, so we're trying to get on it, but it's tough.
Yeah. Oh, I understand.
We'll get on it and try and get it done.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ned Fowler, thank you so much for coming on the Pirate.
Oh.